Hello and welcome to Give Black, Give Back Conversations. Welcome if you're new to the team and you haven't been following us, make sure you follow us on our YouTube channel at the Community Foundation, Give Black, Give Back. And if you are returning, then welcome back. As you know, we have these conversations around expanding Black philanthropy in the Nashville metro area. Today is no exception. We have a great guest on, so stay tuned and you'll learn more about Give Black, Give Back. But if you can't wait, then go to blackgivingback.com and you can get all the information you need about past interviews, a little bit more about what we're doing here to expand Black philanthropy. So Give Black, Give Back is really an opportunity for us to do three different things. To amplify Black philanthropists. There are many Black philanthropists in the area we want to make sure we amplify. We also want to address and educate people about Black philanthropy and the Black wealth gap specifically. And we also want to amplify our Black-led nonprofits. And so we do all that in conjunction with the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee. So by watching this and supporting the initiative here, you are doing a great thing for the community. So today, we have a very, very great guest, and we have Divine House. As we were mentioning before, she's been here 3 years, and many of us have probably passed her along the way. She's over on Charlotte on West End, across from Vanderbilt. And Charity McDowell will be our guest today. So stay tuned for that, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. As stated before, I am Charity Dowell, and I am the owner of Divine House here in Nashville. We've been here for about 3 years. We originally planned to open right when COVID hit in March of 2020. And so that set us back in our opening, and we had to pivot a lot. And so my background originally started out in public health, and I got the mojo to open up a space here in Nashville for people to come in and host events, do things that celebrate their own brand, and also us to open up our own lounge. So I am a Nashville native. A lot of people don't know that. But yes, born and raised here in Nashville.
All right, well, thank you so much, Charity, for that great that sort of intro for yourself. I know there's many other things we're going to get into those. And, you know, with the Give Black, Give Back conversations, one of the first places we always start is, what was your best giving experience? When did you give and you really understood the impact of your gift?
I would say my first giving experience, well, I'll start here. I have always been a part of something where we have always been giving back. My father was a pastor of a church when I was just an itty bitty baby. And so giving back was a part of what we did each and every day. We would do hot food lunches. We would do clothing drives. So I just grew up in that community of always wanting and having the need and urge to give back to the people around us. I then went to college and became a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, and the giving changed. It wasn't just, I thought it was going to be just our peers, people that we were on campus with, but it became community based. We would go out into community centers and help youth in the area. We would go to elementary schools. And so it changed the way that I was giving, but it just broadened it for myself. My most recent, well, I'll say about 3 years ago when the tornado hit, was probably my favorite thus far, because my brothers actually own a wing shack in North Nashville, and that was one of the areas that was hit the hardest. And I was laying in bed that next morning after the tornado hit, and I called my brother, my oldest brother, and I was like, what's going on over there? And he said, we're giving back to the community. We're cooking food for free. We're giving away food. We're giving away clothes, shoes, anything that people need. And so I got in my car instantly and drove over and spent the entire day picking up branches, helping homes, giving out food, helping people who didn't have water. And I think that really touched me the most, because that was the community that we grew up in. That was the community that our dad had his church in. And so it just kind of took it back to the very beginning of time when we first gave. And I would say that was probably my best and favorite.
That is so, thank you for first of all sharing that story. I think that's a story that touches close to a lot of Nashvilleians specifically. So much has happened since the tornado that we almost forget that part, but that's sort of a really great opportunity to sort of show your giving from there. You mentioned your sorority specifically and around how that's given. And I don't know that we've ever highlighted the way that Black Greek organizations have been giving for years. And one of the things that we do, again, we amplify Black philanthropists, and we consider all of our Divine Nine and those beyond that to be philanthropists as well. So share a little bit more about how your sorority really changed the way that you were giving. I know you said it went from just the people in your area to local base, and how maybe even the Divine Nine specifically are really active in that sort of philanthropy, that what we would brand as philanthropy.
With Divine Nine, specifically Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, we focused on emerging young leaders, and that put us out into the community of YMCAs, community centers, schools, and we were able to reach out to children and help them do things and get outside the box of things that they normally did not do. So we would go into schools and help with public speaking. We would go into schools and do donation drives. We would go into schools and just interact and be a part of their lives in a way that some of them may not have, or some of them may have had. But just being a part of a community, and then also offering who you are to that specific community, to those people, to those children, just help in their upbringing. They would see, us come in and just smiling and being a part of what they're doing, and that gave them something to look up to, look forward to, going to college and being a part of another community, and then so that the cycle can continue for them to give back. I think that was one of the main things that we focused on, was that emerging young leaders.
I'm gonna lean into that leadership piece from that standpoint, because you've done something really great here at Divine House. What was you talk about your philanthropy, you talk about how you have been giving back since you were young in your father's church, and then all the different ways that you've given back. What was the passion that manifested into what we have now as the Divine House? What drove you to sort of, I know you talked about a little bit, you were starting before the pandemic, but what was the manifestation that sort of has become the Divine House?
So my husband and I were driving one day, and we were thinking about a lounge or a space for people, for us specifically, to be able to relax in, to sit in. And we were saying we want it to feel like home, because we're comfortable at home, but we want to get out of the house as well. And so with doing that, we said, let's try to create something that's home away from home. And so when people come in here all the time, they always say, oh, it's so cozy in here. And I'm like, good, make it home, relax. I don't want you to feel like you're anywhere else in Nashville. I want you to feel like you're at home. That's what Divine House is. It's a simply good feeling at home. And so when you come in, relax, kick back, but just feel like you're home away from home. And I think that's the biggest thing with the rooms, different room setup that we have here. They're all different in a way that you're like, oh, I can relax here, or I can work in here, or I can eat in here, or I can get something to drink in here. And I think that's the best part about it, is it's not your average event space where it's just open, wide open floor. It's different rooms set up for different opportunities to do different things.
And that was definitely the feeling when I first came here. I came here for a work event the first time, and then came back for one of your brunches, and I felt like I was at home. And I do think that's an important place for us to sort of set for a second, because I think we're all trying to create a new environment for ourselves and new spaces for ourselves, especially for Black folks, right? So for Black folks to feel at home and not feel encumbered by other outside forces from that standpoint, and to have that sort of place to just sort of sit and feel like you're in a house. And the art here is amazing, and it definitely puts you into a space. You're also a public health professional, and I don't know if people know that about you. And you spent some time at Matthew Walker, so one of our illustrious programs here in the city that sort of helps out the community specifically. And so I imagine that everyone who goes into public health has this goal that they want to change the world in some way. Now, you've done some stuff here with Divine House, but tell me a little bit more about I know you have some ideas on what are some things that we could do that could really change the paradigm and change the world. And as a public health professional, what would be what's your plan to make that change?
I absolutely love that question. And I love it because public health is my background, and I love every aspect about it. When I first got out of college, I was at Matthew Walker, like you said, and community-based, we're right back to the community and giving back and working in a comprehensive health center that's focused on the community around them. It's what's always been instilled in me. And not many people know this, and I guess I'm saying it now, but I am in nursing school right now.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I am in nursing school, and I recently had a baby 2 years ago, and Black mothers is my goal. Black mothers, prenatal, postnatal services is what I plan to branch off of Divine House, and that's going to be community based as well. And so I don't want to give too much of my thought process right now because it can be all over the place. But being a part of the public health sector, you always want to, like you said, you always want to have a goal, and that goal is to always be successful and happy in what you're doing. And with being successful within the public health realm, it's about doing what you can do, what's best for your community. And I cannot put more emphasis on community, because those are the people who need it, those who are around us, those who we work with, those who we walk past, those who we see at the store. All of those people need the best services ever. And sometimes they lack that. And I want to be able to stand in the gap for a lot of people.
So you have so many talents. I think that's the one thing that I would say about all the interviews that we've had, Black women specifically. I'm a little partial to Black women, I'm gonna say that. But we have so many talents. I mean, you're an entrepreneur, you're a public health professional, you're a nurse. On top of that, and above and beyond that, you are obviously a mom and a wife and all those different things. So how do you, and you mentioned about success, how do you define success in there? I think when women are trying to find spaces to where they can contribute and they can support, and you're doing all of the above, and I know that that's a balance in there, how would you define success for you, or even the Divine House, or however you want to define success?
I would specifically define success as writing down a goal to achieve. Sometimes people can look at success as something major, something huge, like you have to own a big business in order to be successful. But if you just take the smaller portion of it, and the creation of Divine House, I was successful in creating Divine House because I sat down with myself, my husband, and created a goal. I said, these are the things that I wanted to do. Now, I was hit with the pandemic, right? Did that make me unsuccessful? I don't think so. I think that you have to pivot. And so within that success comes a lot of hurdles that you have to jump. And if you are able to pivot and able to still achieve your main goal, no matter which direction, how you get there, I think that's what success comes in.
That's really helpful. I think a lot of people are looking up to you, whether or not you know it or not, that are looking, as far as an entrepreneur, as a professional, as a mom, as a wife, all those different pieces in there, and managing those pieces specifically. I think that's some really good advice for those that are out there. My last question is going to be about what's the legacy you want to leave. When we talk about philanthropy and we start talking about what is the legacy that we want to leave, and you have already built a very solid foundation, it sounds like, with you and your family, your brothers, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But in particular, what is the legacy that you're trying to leave, whether or not we're talking about wealth or we're talking about just time, talent, treasures, or just your truth and testimony? So What's your legacy?
I would say with the legacy that I would want to leave, it's a couple of different things, but I would say something that was left with me from my grandfather was, he used the word stick-it-to-itiveness. Okay. And so with that, stick to whatever it is you put your mind to. And when you do something like that, when you stick to your goals, you stick to your life plans, even though you may have to, like I said before, make those pivots in life, if you stick to it, you'll see the very best things happening in your life. You will see the wealth will come in, and the hard work and dedication will show when you stick to what you truly believe in. You stick to your community base. Like I said from the very beginning, I was raised in a community of giving, and so I still want to do those things, and I have a space and that we have, like you mentioned, the artwork on the walls is all by native Nashville Black artists here. So it's just giving back and showcasing something that others may not be able to see. And so when you stick to your plan, you stick to your goal, I think that will always bring generational wealth and health and everything that comes along with it.
That was so helpful. I heard a quote recently that I said I was going to commit to memory. You want to leave more in people than you want to leave for people. And I think that's what you're doing here with, your work here at the Divine House, your work in public health, your work as a future nurse, helping out Black women specifically in maternal health is definitely an area to go with. So we want to thank you. I'm Lisa Swift-Young with the Community Foundation. This is Charity Dowell of the Divine House and soon to be nurse. And we want to thank you so much for attending or watching this particular podcast. Don't forget to share it with your friends on all of our social media platforms. If you want to find out more about what we're doing here and watch more of these types of talks with local professionals, entrepreneurs, and I'm going to brand you a philanthropist as well. Go to blackgivingback.com specifically, and you can look at all the interviews there, learn about what we're doing. There's also ways to give if you're interested in helping some of these nonprofits, Black-led nonprofits in the area. You can find listing of all of those there. A lot of funds are led by Black people specifically. You can find those there. So blackgivingback.com is definitely the place to go. Charity, I want to thank you so much for, hosting us today in your home. I feel like Divine House is a home, and hosting us here today. On behalf of the Community Foundation, my co-chair, Kia Jarman, and myself and the Community Foundation, thank you so much for participating today. And don't forget to give Black, give back.